observing yourself and how you're interacting with others, and also observing, your stuff when it comes up. Is there more to it than that?
Well, yeah, I think, as I say, the starting point is a decision to just kind of sit back from the hubbub of everything, whatever that is, whether you're a busy father or you're a student or you're in the ashram or you're in your car or wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you look like, it doesn't really matter, but to sit back from the activity of life and actually contemplate what it is that you're trying to achieve, and to ask yourself the question, what am I doing? What am I doing? That's a very, very powerful question to ask yourself on a regular basis. It's certainly one that I remind myself of all the time. And it's a question that cuts through a lot of stuff because, as I say, the irony in the kind of, as Alan Watts used to call it, the enlightenment game, is that even though this is one of the purest pursuits, as we might say, you can still get caught up in the paraphernalia of it. So you can be so busy speaking or touring or writing books or making movies or doing television or whatever, that you actually begin to slightly move away from what you're supposed to be doing. So to ask yourself, what am I doing on a regular basis, is a very powerful way to do it. And yes, it does bring questions of authenticity in, because being authentic is really acknowledging the sort of spontaneity, the seriousness, the divinity, the meaning of your own existence, whatever that terminology is for you. The divinity of it, for some people, is a funny way to describe it, but the meaning of your existence is a key aspect to this, and that authenticity is something that we can't really deceive ourselves about, because it doesn't really work to deceive yourself about that. So when you're completely true to yourself, really, really with an open heart and an open mind, you know when you're being authentic to your mother or to your friend or to the bank teller or to the cab driver or whatever. You know when you're being authentic, and you know when you're not being authentic. And that movement is quite a reliable source to show you the relationship between yourself as an intellectual animal and your spirit, i.e. your kind of higher dimensional download that is there with you on this journey. And when those two are aligned, then we have authenticity in what we do. It's a very catchy word at the moment, and just as I start to kind of enjoy using it, as almost it just tips, and now I'm starting to try and use other words because everybody's saying it. But authenticity is key. Spirit is just the old word for it, really. To have spirit in what you do and show spirit in what you do is another nice way of saying it. And yeah, it is important to bring that into every aspect of what we do. As I say, not just the retreats and the conferences and the workshops and so on, but just the very normal things as well, because that is really what it's all about. And that's why so many people are so uncertain about making the fundamental choice to be a spiritual being, because it does change everything. And I am, again, slowly coming to the realization that it's very, very difficult to have ongoing spiritual growth in what you might call a 9-to-5 environment. It's almost impossible. And if one were to put on the sort of conspiratorial hat for a moment, if you want to keep people away from the truth, the very, very best way of doing that is to just simply keep them busy. Because when you're doing that, there is no space to contemplate and to reflect. And that is all a human being needs to grow. But there's so little time for that in today's busy lives. And it's so normal to be busy, that growth is almost considered a luxury rather than something organic and normal and necessary. And so certainly in the people where I've seen them embrace their spiritual existence in very mundane ways and in very magical ways at every level, they have moved away from the 9 to 5 existence and the normal mainstream existence. And sometimes that takes on very subtle things, like they will freelance, or they will take time off, or have sabbaticals from work, or work for themselves, or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean they go and live in an eco-village straight away, or an completely alternative alien way of life. It's often good to have some kind of stepping stones to that, particularly if you're a mature person and you've spent a lot of time in the mainstream. It's not wise to jump from that into the freezing cold waters of something different. It's good to acclimatize yourself bit by bit, but there's no question in my mind that as one takes hold of that new way of being, that the old 9 to 5 thing very, very quickly becomes untenable at every level, really. And you begin to realize how dehumanizing it is. And so, one of the most dangerous things you could say, really, to what I refer to as the control system, which is just a sort of administrative aspect of Maya, if you like, of the construct, is to say, when you see Obama or Cameron or Merkel or Netanyahu or whoever go on television and say what our country needs is jobs and what our people want is jobs, what I say is, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. People don't want that. Nobody wants to do those things anymore. What people want is play and creativity and fulfillment and exploration and love and food and warmth. That's what people want. Jobs is not what people want. And it's just a con, this Protestant work ethic of defining oneself through hard work, particularly something that you don't really enjoy, is just a scam. And it's wearing rather thin now. And it's wearing so thin that it actually doesn't, people are beginning to disbelieve it for the first time in their millions. And the result is a crashing economy in some ways, because people are not prepared to do what they used to be prepared to do in the 50s and 60s and so on. So there are some amusing elements of this, as long as one can keep, some sort of like bread on the table and people aren't, in real poverty. From a philosophical aspect, if we can afford ourselves that view, it is fascinating to see what's happening, because I would say that jobs in 2011 are the things that we need to begin to move away from. I don't think it needs to be like that anymore. And I really don't think, hand on heart, if people stand in the sort of, truth beam of light where they can only tell the truth, nobody really wants to do that stuff anymore. What people want are the things I said, which are natural human, instincts and impulses, which are perfectly normal and are not luxuries and are not just playthings. They are what we are here to do and what we always were here to do. It's just that we've been off track for so long that struggle has been the thing that we've characterized ourselves with, and it's just not the case, really.
I agree. It just seems like the way this system is set up now, the system is set up to basically, protect the system. It's not set up for the people anymore. It's there to preserve the system and make sure the system continues. And if you step outside of the system, then you're a threat to that to that program. And the only way they know how to deal with that threat is through force. To try to get you, get your nose back to the grindstone and keep you enslaved, through survival and things like that, and keeping the manufactured lack going and things of that nature. I think people are finally waking up to that fact of what's really going on, and I'm seeing now that the possibilities are endless. I just met with some people that have technologies beyond your wildest dream, both healing and other technologies, that would take care of all of our energy problems. And people don't realize that the abundance